music that you're going to hear tonight is just beautiful. And you've been here before. You've probably heard the Harpsichord before, and you're really going to relish it, we believe. So that was the reason that we made the change, and we reduced our seating capacity, so we're thankful that you're here. So I have the pleasure of serving as president of Ascending. Tom White, our artistic director, you'll hear from again in a moment. We also have our board members that are listed in the program, so please take a look at that. I want to draw your attention to the flyers that are here, and we made some updates to them, so if you want to take a copy of that, but especially in the program, I want you to notice that we have the next event is January 10th. It's on Saturday, and it is our third annual Baroque brunch. It's really going to be special this year because it's going to be at Brockington Hall, which is an 1800s building on East. And it's essentially kind of a wedding venue building. It's interesting. It will be open. But we could make it till midnight. So, So without further ado, my colleague, Tom White.
Be a violent thing, but the analogy I think of is when you go to a boxing ring and you sit close to the ring, you see all the blood, sweat, and tears close up. Well, we don't have anything that violent here, but we'll have musical soul and passion being outpoured by these wonderful musicians. I just met Maria and Cole today. Wonderful musicians, all from Atlanta, with Maria having an origin from Greece. So Bach Ascending is truly international. So welcome, enjoy the concert, and I want to introduce Rhett Barnwell and his crew.
on a Thursday night in Savannah. You probably have a lot of other entertainment options, especially in a town like this. But where I'm from, LaGrange, Georgia, anybody's familiar with it, I think we could fit the entire population into this room. We did the same concert Sunday night in LaGrange, and they really had no other options. I mean, on Sundays in LaGrange, everything is closed. The restaurants, the bars, well, they're not. Even some of the churches are closed on Sunday. It's just crazy. But I know that's not the case here. But I love Savannah. I've been coming here for a long time. And I was so pleased when Tom actually moved here so I'd have a free place to stay. But, you know, and when I'm away, I miss the things about Savannah that I love so much. You know, there's so many things like the tourist on Broughton Street, for example. The construction on I-16. They finally finished it, I think. So now it only takes an hour instead of 2 hours to get from 95 to downtown. And the smells of Savannah, it's just, you know, the horse in New York. It's really lovely. And I heard there was new development along the riverfront, and I thought, thank God they're going to get rid of that hideous electric plant. And I was down there the other day, and I thought, geez, it's still there. It just costs twice as much now. But no, Savannah's a beautiful place. I really love coming here. So our program tonight is called the Christmas Serenade, and we hope that it will really kind of nourish your soul. And I know this is a very busy time of year. And we're in the season of Advent. And if you're a church person, you know what that is. But it means a lot of different things to different people. For some, Advent means going ahead and celebrating Christmas, you know, putting up the Christmas tree before Thanksgiving and all that, singing the carols and that's fine. For some people, it's a time of just quiet anticipation, just kind of waiting and watching. And for Walmart, it means putting out the Easter candy early. Now, in the Episcopal Church, which is my tradition, I say celebrate Advent as sort of a little Lent, like it's sort of a fasting, you know, kind of thing. But we don't give up chocolate. Oh no, we eat more chocolate. All the chocolate we bought from Walmart back in August. But I think in the Lutheran Church, it is observed as sort of a quiet time, a time of preparation. We try to avoid singing Christmas carols, which is really hard to do because how many Advent carols do you know? I mean, I think there's one, and I'm going to play it tonight. So we'll just have to pretend about the other. So we're going to start out with a couple of pieces that revolve around the theme of Mary. And it's often overlooked in Advent the role that Mary plays as the mother of Jesus. And obviously, you know, we know about Bethlehem and the Christmas story and the baby Jesus and that whole bit, but we don't think about what happened before that. And you probably know the story, you know. So Mary is a 14-year-old Jewish girl, right? And she's poor, and she lives in a hill town in what is now Israel in Nazareth. And so she's out, you know, doing whatever she does. And one day, this huge angel suddenly appears, the angel Gabriel, and says, "Hey, Mary, how's it going?" And she, we don't know that he said that, but according to the Bible, he said, "Hail Mary, full of grace, the Lord is with you." But I have one of those modern Bibles, you know, with the New English translation. So, "Hey, Mary, how you doing? How's it going?" So Mary says, "Oh, I'm okay. How are you? What's up?" And he goes, "Hey, guess what?" And she said, "We're finally going to get a Walmart?" And he said, "No, it's better than that." He said, "It's better than that. You're going to have a baby. And not only that, it's going to be the Son of God." And Mary's like, "Okay, wait a minute. Let's get this straight. First of all, I'm not married yet. And then secondly, what was the part about the Son of God?" You know? So she's just been hit with this news. It's kind of overwhelming. But she goes, "Okay, fine, I'll do it. Fine." And the angel says, "Good, we'll work all the other details out later." And so that's kind of what happened. So I thought it would be interesting to put together some music that touches on that story, specifically the setting of the Hail Mary text, Hail Mary, full of grace, which is Ave Maria, believe it or not. So there are 4 settings of Ave Maria by different composers, and there are a couple of other pieces that touch on the theme of Mary and her role as the mother giving birth to Jesus. So we'll start out by playing a piece that is the well-known Advent hymn, "O Come, O Emmanuel. But please don't sing along, so I'll get confused. And then Maria will sing Ave Maria, a setting of the word, my own composition.
Oh
So the next piece I'm going to do, well, we're going to shift gears a little bit. There are a lot of themes to explore during Advent, and this is not church on Sunday morning, so I won't bore you to death. But there is the theme coming up of, in fact, this next Sunday, or the fourth Sunday of Advent, of Jesus being foreshadowed as the shepherd of Israel. So I thought it would be nice to do a couple of kind of sheepy kind of pieces. So the next one is going to be Bach's Sheep May Safely Graze. It's not the whole thing, but it's a transcription of the well-known piece. After that, Maria will sing my version of the 23rd Psalm, The Lord is My Shepherd. And then after that, I'll go right into another Bach piece, which has nothing to do with sheep, but it's a transcription of his first cello suite. And I also play the cello, obviously. And so I thought it would be interesting to try playing some of the music for the cello on the harp, with varying degrees of success that I've discovered. So I took the first cello suite. The thing is, Bach wrote, I'll talk about Bach more later, but Bach wrote absolutely nothing for the harp. And I found this out the hard way, because when I lived in Charleston, they asked me to do an all-Bach recital on Bach's birthday. And I said, sure, why not? So, and this was, back in the 90s when I was, 10 years old. And so there was not much internet then. And so I went in, my books, and I was like, there's no Bach here for the harp. I mean, I thought he wrote something. And so I did a bunch of research, and he didn't. The harp existed in Germany at the time, but it was a very primitive instrument. And if you know Bach's music, you know that they're usually more black notes on the page than white notes. So it's a little complex, which would be difficult to play on a harp of Bach's time. So I thought, well, this is going to be an interesting recital. It was really short. I mean, we just had the reception, basically. But I started making these transcriptions, and I thought, well, I'll transcribe some of the cello suite. So this one is from the first cello suite, and it's pretty much a direct transcription, except it's a different instrument, it's in a different key, and the notes are different. But otherwise, it's things are at the top of the harp. This is actually called a lever harp because there are levers. If you go to the symphony or something, you're probably used to seeing a larger harp that has, if you can see, pedals around the bottom, and those are for the brake, the clutch, first gear, second gear. So what the pedals and the levers do is they change the pitch. On the piano you have black and white keys, and same with the harpsichord. Although in the harpsichord it's white and black keys, but that's another story. So for example, you have middle C, and if you want to make it C sharp, you just raise the lever, and it becomes C sharp. Now you can't go down, so you can only go up. But with the pedal harp, you have 3 different positions, so you can have C sharp, C natural, or C flat. And a lot of people say, well, what's really the difference between a lever and a pedal harp? And the answer is about $20,000. So I'm on the economical part tonight. But no, I love playing the lever harp because it's actually closer. I mean, harps did exist in the Baroque period. They just were not very developed. But they would have been about this size, and it has a more intimate sort of feeling. So I like playing the lever harp, plus it fits in my car much easier. So the next couple of pieces we're doing are going a little bit off track of what we've been looking at. And one of them is the early American Appalachian carol, I Wonder as I Wander, and then the Coventry carol, and followed by another version of Ave Maria. And I realized that the two back-to-back, one is talking about somebody getting lost in the woods, and the other one's about Herod slaughtering a lot of babies. So don't let that be too much of a downer for you. But they're beautiful pieces. And then following that is the piece by William Gomez, a Spanish composer that no one's ever heard of. But it's a beautiful piece, and I was so glad to discover it. And Maria sings it beautifully. So. pieces. And I'll just tell you a little bit about Bach. If you've been coming to the Bach Ascending, you probably know more than I do. But, Bach was a very interesting character. He actually never left Germany, even though he's probably one of the most famous, if not the most well-known composers now. But he was not known outside of Germany. One time he left Leipzig and walked 50 miles to see Buxtehude. But other than that, he pretty much was a homebody. So anyway, his final and most important position was, of course, in Leipzig, Germany, and he was tasked with a number of things. You talk about a job description. He was in charge of music for all the three major churches in Leipzig. He had to put together music. He was playing in St. Thomas, but he was responsible for the others. He also had to teach at the boys' school. The boys learned music and they learned Latin. Can you imagine teaching sixth graders Latin? And he also was in charge of a community orchestra. And part of his church duty, he didn't go on the internet and download music to play for church. So he had to actually write it himself. And they generally didn't play other composers' music back then so much for various reasons. But so he was responsible for putting on a cantata every single Sunday for a 3-year cycle. And this meant, if you know what a cantata is, it's not what they do at First Baptist, once a year at Christmas, where they do the singing Christmas tree and all that. It's where it takes the scriptures of the day, the gospel, and turns it into a pretty large-scale musical work. So there's full orchestra, usually different orchestrations. A choir composed of men and boys again. And then you have soloists, you have obligato instruments. And, to me it's mind-boggling how he could have written one of these every single week. And there were no Xerox machines either, so the parts had to be copied and he had people do that for him. But to write all of that and then rehearse it and teach it to all those kids. I mean, my children's choir can barely sing Come to Jesus at home after 3 weeks. So I don't know how these kids, did it. And they were singing in German on top of it. So anyway, so that was Bach's case. But he was a pretty busy man, but he managed somehow to father 19 children in the midst of all that. Because he found time for the important things. So Maria and Cole are going to do, first of all, a selection from one of his most famous cantatas, Cantata 140, Wachen auf, which is an Advent cantata. They're just doing an excerpt from it. And the text is there. After that, we will do the Quiato Spacey from the Magnificat, which is a larger scale work of Bach, which is the song I was talking about, Mary, my soul, that magnify the Lord. So we're doing a section of that. And after that, this charming little chorale, Jesu and Zeus. Maria pronounces it much better than I do. That's that. So we're going to bring back the piece that we started with, the Veni O Come Emmanuel. So this is a different setting of it. And it's, I don't know, I just had a sort of medieval idea about it. So this is just kind of a different treatment of it. And then after that, we will do another Ave Maria setting, this time by the contemporary Polish composer called Rhett. I'm not sure if I'm pronouncing that right. But he's actually known as a film composer, but he wrote this beautiful Ave Maria that I discovered on YouTube, and which is the source of all things now. So I thought, well, if it's on YouTube, it must be an important piece. So we'll do it. So I'll do the Veni Emmanuel, and then we'll do that Ave Maria. After the clock sounds. It's in the wrong key, so. While we're stopped, my audience in the range, well, I'm not going to say anything disparaging, I love the people, but most of them have never seen a harpsichord. You all probably have. But I was trying to explain what it was, and I said, oh, you remember the Addams Family. Black and white. I mean, it's so old I wasn't even sure TV was invented when they had it on. But I remember watching it. I said, Lurch. Just think Lurch. making this happen and for inviting me back. I wasn't sure after 2 years ago if they were going to run me out of town or ask me back, but it's nice to see you. I'm here. So, thank you. And y'all are such a wonderful supporting community of the artists, especially Bacchus and Anna. This means a lot to the community. The last two pieces are compositions of mine. The first one is called Angel's Hymn, and there's a little story behind this. So 20 some odd years ago when I was teaching, I was very young. One of my adult students was a beginner, and we became very good friends. And she was one of these people that, I don't know if you know what I'm talking about, that you kind of love to hate, all right? So, if you have a birthday or something, she's the one who always has the perfect gift. And not only the perfect gift, but perfectly wrapped, thematically to match the present, it matches the card, everything matches. And it's just like, how did you have the time to do all this? But every birthday, that's what she would always do for me. So when it came time for her birthday, I thought, well, I've got to reciprocate. Well, I'm a guy, so, I'm in Harp. So whatever, here's a gift card. Go buy a vacuum cleaner or something. Sorry. Incorrect. Anyway, so I thought, well, what will I do? So she was learning to play this particular pattern in the left hand. The harp, and I thought, well, I'll just write a little exercise for her to do. And I thought, that would be a great birthday present, a harp exercise. Whatever busy woman wants. So I wrote this little exercise, and I thought, it actually sounds more like a piece. So but I couldn't come up with a title for it. I just didn't know what to call it. So I used to play. In fact, the way I got started playing the harp really was playing for therapeutic music for people who are the sick and the dying. In hospitals and nursing homes and hospices. And I did that for a number of years. And a lot of the music that I wrote, not that we did tonight, but other music was written for that situation. And this piece actually was as well. But she would go with me sometimes to the nursing home. And we walked in one day and there was a very elderly gentleman lying in bed. And he was, kind of half out of it. But he looked up and he saw my friend and he goes, she had blonde hair that day at least. And I tell the story far more somewhere. So she comes in and he goes, oh, you brought your angel with you. And so we went, oh, so we decided to call the piece Angel's Hymn back. In fact, 2 years ago when we did the concert here, her daughter sang the role of Maria. Her daughter sang, and Riley, my friend, was actually here at the concert. And it has become, I'm not bragging on myself, I'm just saying, it's such a simple little piece, and yet it has become so incredibly one of my most popular works. And somebody emailed me from Germany the other day and said she was filming a special for German television, I forget, Dusseldorf, I think, and she wanted to use this piece. And do I have your permission? I said, well, let me think about it. Sure. So it's made its way around the globe, let's just say that. And that I'm very humbled by that. And then the last piece is a setting of I didn't put the text in there, but Maria's diction was great, you'll understand it. Even though it is medieval English, so if you if you lived in the 14th century, you'll know exactly what she's singing. But it's a setting of this beautiful text, there is no rose of such virtue as is the rose that bare Jesus. So it's about the Virgin Mary bearing it compared to a rose. And again, thank you so much for coming. And I believe there is a bar afterwards. I think there was a bar before too. If we had our vision, there would be. All right, thank you.
lunch if it works with your schedule. And keep in mind our scholarship for 2026 will be online January 2nd. So we appreciate your donations toward our scholarship for young artists, including all performing artists, not music as well